Maha Kumbh festival of Indians. Kumbh Mela is an important Hindu pilgrimage, celebrated approximately every 6, 12 and 144 years, correlated with the partial or full revolution of Jupiter and representing the largest human gathering in the world. Kumbh is held at 4 riverside pilgrimage sites, namely, Prayagraj, Ganges Yamuna Saraswati rivers confluence, Haridwar, Ganges, Nashik, Godavari, and Ujjain, Shipra. In 2022, after a 700-year break, Bansberia, Hooghly, hosted the pilgrimage again. The festival is marked by a ritual dip in the waters, but it is also a celebration of community commerce with numerous fairs, education, religious discourses by saints, mass gatherings of monks, and entertainment. The seekers believe that bathing in these rivers is a means to prayashita, atonement, penance, restorative action, for past mistakes, and that it cleanses them of their sins. The festival is traditionally credited to the 8th century Hindu philosopher and Sant Adi Shankara, as a part of his efforts to start major Hindu gatherings for philosophical discussions and debates along with Hindu monasteries across the Indian subcontinent. However, there is no historical literary evidence of these mass pilgrimages called Kumbh Mela prior to the 19th century. There is ample evidence in historical manuscripts and inscriptions of an annual maha mela in Hinduism, with periodic larger gatherings after 6 or 12 years, where pilgrims gathered in massive numbers and where one of the rituals included a sacred dip in a river or holy tank. According to Karma MacLean, the socio-political developments during the colonial era and a reaction to Orientalism led to the rebranding and remobilization of the ancient maha mela as the modern era Kumbh Mela, particularly after the Indian Rebellion of 1857. The weeks over which the festival is observed cycle at each site approximately once every 12 years based on the Hindu lunisolar calendar and the relative astrological positions of Jupiter, the Sun and the Moon. The difference between Prayag and Haridwar festivals is about 6 years, and both feature a maha, major, and Ardha, half, Kumbh Melas. The exact years, particularly for the Kumbh Melas at Ujjain and Nashik, have been a subject of dispute in the 20th century. The Nashik and Ujjain festivals have been celebrated in the same year or 1 year apart, typically about 3 years after the Prayagraj Kumbh Mela. Elsewhere in many parts of India, similar but smaller community pilgrimage and bathing festivals are called the Maha Mela, Makha Mela or equivalent. For example, in Tamil Nadu, the Maha Mela with water dip ritual is a festival of antiquity. This festival is held at the Mahamaham tank, near Kaveri River, every 12 years at Kumbakonam, attracts millions of South Indian Hindus and has been described as the Tamil Kumbh Mela. Other places where the Maha Mela or Makha Mela bathing pilgrimage and fairs have been called Kumbh Mela include Kurukshetra, Sonipat, and Panauti, Nepal. The Kumbh Melas have 3 dates around which the significant majority of pilgrims participate, while the festival itself lasts between 1 and 3 months around these dates. Each festival attracts millions, with the largest gathering at the Prayag Kumbh Mela and the second largest at Haridwar. According to the Encyclopaedia Britannica and Indian authorities, more than 200 million Hindus gathered for the Kumbh Mela in 2019, including 50 million on the festival's most crowded day. The festival is one of the largest peaceful gatherings in the world, and considered as the world's largest congregation of religious pilgrims. It has been inscribed on UNESCO's representative list of intangible cultural heritage of humanity. The festival is observed over many days, with the day of Amavasya attracting the largest number on a single day. The Kumbh Mela authorities said that the largest one-day attendance at the Kumbh Mela was 30 million on the 10th of February 2013, and 50 million on the 4th of February 2019. Etymology and nomenclature. The Kumbh in Kumbh Mela literally means pitcher, jar, pot, in Sanskrit. It is found in the Vedic texts, in this sense, often in the context of holding water or in mythical legends about the nectar of immortality. The word Kumbha or its derivatives are found in the Rig Veda, 1500 to 1200 BCE, for example, in verse 10.89.7, verse 19.16 of the Yajurveda, verse 6.3 of Samaveda, verse 19.53.3 of the Atharvaveda, and other Vedic and post-Vedic ancient Sanskrit literature. In astrological texts, the term also refers to the zodiac sign of Aquarius. The astrological etymology dates to late 1st millennium CE. The word mela means unite, join, meet, move together, assembly, junction, in Sanskrit, particularly in the context of fairs and community celebrations. This word is also found in the Rig Veda and other ancient Hindu texts. Thus, Kumbh Mela means an assembly, meet, union, around, water or nectar of immortality. Historical origins. Editor pot, Kumbh, containing Amrita, was one of the creative products of the Samudra Manthana legend in ancient Hindu texts. Many Hindus believe that the Kumbh Mela originated in times immemorial and is attested in the Hindu Puranas about Samudra Manthana, lit. Churning of the ocean, found in the Puranas. Historians, in contrast, reject these claims, as none of the ancient or medieval era texts that mention the Samudra Manthana legend ever link it to a mela or festival. According to Giorgio Bonazzoli, a scholar of Sanskrit Puranas, these are anachronistic explanations, an adaptation of early legends to a later practice by a small circle of adherents, who have sought the roots of a highly popular pilgrimage and festival. The first page of Prayag Snana Vidhi manuscript, Sanskrit, Devanagari script. It describes methods to complete a bathing pilgrimage at Prayag. The manuscript, 1674 CE, has a colophon, which states, copied by Sarvotama, son of Vishvanatha Bhatta, Samvat 1752. The Hindu legend, however, describes the creation of a pot of Amrita, nectar of immortality, after the forces of good and evil churn the ocean of creation. The gods and demons fight over this pot, the Kumbh, of nectar, in order to gain immortality. In a later-day extension to the legend, the pot is split at 4 places, and that is the origin of the 4 Kumbh Melas. The story varies, with some stating Vishnu as Mohini avatar, others stating Dhanavantari or Garuda or Indra spilling the pot. This spilling and associated Kumbh Mela story is not found in the earliest mentions of the original legend of Samudra Manthana, churning of the ocean, such as the Vedic-era texts, pre-500 BCE. Nor is this story found in the later-era Puranas, 3rd to 10th century CE. While the Kumbh Mela phrase is not found in the ancient or medieval-era texts, numerous chapters and verses in Hindu texts are found about a bathing festival, the sacred junction of rivers Ganga, Yamuna and sacred Saraswati at Prayag, and pilgrimage to Prayag. These are in the form of snana, bathe, ritual, and in the form of Prayag Mahatmya, greatness of Prayag, historical tour guides in Sanskrit. History. The first Kumbh Mela event was organized in 1870, under British supervision. Some observers have found similarities between Kumbh Mela and other events that took place in the earlier times. While the British did not start the Kumbh Mela, they did play a role in formalizing its organization during their rule in India. As the Kumbh Mela attracted massive gatherings, the British administration implemented measures to manage the crowd, ensure sanitation, and maintain law and order. For example, in the 19th century, British officials began recording the event's scale and regulating its logistics. The Kumbh Mela is a deeply indigenous tradition that existed long before the British arrived in India, and their role was limited to administrative management during their rule. The earliest mention of Prayag and the bathing pilgrimage is found in Rig Veda Parasista, supplement to the Rig Veda. It is also mentioned in the Pali canons of Buddhism, such as in section 1.7 of Majjhima Nikaya, wherein the Buddha states that bathing in Prayaga, Skt. Prayaga, cannot wash away cruel and evil deeds, rather the virtuous one should be pure in heart and fair in action. The Mahabharata mentions a bathing pilgrimage at Prayag as a means of prayashita, atonement, penance, for past mistakes and guilt. In Tirthayatra Parva, before the Great War, the epic states, the one who observes firm, ethical, vows, having bathed at Prayaga during Maha, O best of the Bharatas, becomes spotless and reaches heaven. In Anushasana Parva, After the war, the epic elaborates this bathing pilgrimage as geographical tirtha that must be combined with manasa tirtha, tirtha of the heart, whereby one lives by values such as truth, charity, self-control, patience and others. There are other references to Prayaga and riverside festivals in ancient Indian texts, including at the places where present-day Kumbh Melas are held, but the exact age of the Kumbh Mela is uncertain. The 7th century Buddhist Chinese traveler Xuanzang, Huansang, mentions King Harsha and his capital of Prayag, which he states to be a sacred Hindu city with hundreds of Deva temples and 2 Buddhist institutions. He also mentions the Hindu bathing rituals at the junction of the rivers. According to some scholars, this is the earliest surviving historical account of the Kumbh Mela, which took place in present-day Prayag in 644 CE. Some traditions ascribe Kumbh Mela's origins to the 8th CE philosopher Shankara as a part of his efforts to start major Hindu gatherings for philosophical discussions and debates along with Hindu monasteries across the Indian subcontinent. Karma MacLean, an Indologist who has published articles on the Kumbh Mela predominantly based on the colonial archives and English-language media, states based on emails from other scholars and a more recent interpretation of the 7th century Xuanzang memoir, the Prayag event happened every 5 years, and not 12 years, featured a Buddha statue, involved alms-giving and it might have been a Buddhist festival. In contrast, Ariel Glucklich, a scholar of Hinduism and anthropology of religion, the Xuanzang memoir includes, somewhat derisively, the reputation of Prayag as a place where people, Hindus, once committed superstitious devotional suicide to liberate their souls, and how a Brahmin of an earlier era successfully put an end to this practice. This and other details such as the names of temples and bathing pools suggest that Xuanzang presented Hindu practices at Prayag in the 7th century, from his Buddhist perspective and perhaps to amuse his audience back in China, states Glucklich. Other early accounts of the significance of Prayag to Hinduism are found in the various versions of the Prayaga Mahatmya, dated to the late 1st millennium CE. These Purana-genre Hindu texts describe it as a place, bustling with pilgrims, priests, vendors, beggars, guides, and local citizens busy along the confluence of the rivers, Sangam. These Sanskrit guidebooks of the medieval era India were updated over its editions, likely by priests and guides who had a mutual stake in the economic returns from the visiting pilgrims. One of the longest sections about Prayag rivers and their significance to Hindu pilgrimage is found in chapters 103 to 112 of the Matsya Purana. Maha Kumbh festival is a gathering of people in one place to celebrate the festival. It's the most spiritual festival of Indians. Thanks for watching the video.